According to a recent survey, 75% of Washingtonians aged 50 and over say it's extremely or very important that they protect themselves against scams and cons, but only 27% say they have everything they need to meet that goal. To help our members and their families bridge that gap, we're presenting this video featuring AARP Washington State Director Doug Shadell, Attorney General Rob McKenna, and Secretary of State Sam Reed on how to protect yourself against one of the most common scams, charity fraud.
You know, we're here today to talk about charitable solicitation and charitable fraud. And every year, Americans give billions of dollars to charity. We are a very charitable country. And with the needs of today's economy, it's never been a more important thing to open our wallets and open our hearts for charity. But what we need to make sure we do is ensure that that money that we give to charity actually gets to the charitable purpose, and that's what we're here to talk about today. From AARP's perspective, the reason we're here is that our research shows that those 65 and older get approached to give to charities more than any other age cohort, and so we're very concerned about charitable solicitation fraud. People really are bombarded these days with all kinds of solicitations. And so while it's good to give, it's important to make sure that we give wisely, and that's sort of the message today. And to help consumers make their giving count, we are really proud to be joined by Attorney General Rob McKenna and Secretary of State Sam Reed to launch Operation Check Before You Give. And the folks you see here today are doing warning calls to 5,000 consumers across the state over the next couple of weeks, warning them about what to look for in terms of charitable solicitation fraud and what questions to ask to make sure that we're giving wisely. In addition, we're also offering a free Check Before You Give packet. The public can order their own free kit by calling AARP's Fraud Fighter call center, and that number is 1-800-646-2283. And on behalf of AARP's 925,000 members across the state, it is my great pleasure to introduce Secretary of State Sam Reed and Attorney General Rob McKenna, and to thank them for their leadership on this issue. I'd like to turn it over to Sam Reed now.
Well, thank you so much, Doug. Well, what you have standing in front of you this Apple Cup weekend is a husky and a cougar. And frankly, we're not going to agree much on anything. But we do agree on this. This is so important, and so important particularly during this holiday season between Thanksgiving and Christmas, when the solicitations for charities is really intense. There are organizations out there that, while they solicit you and appeal to your heartstrings by saying this is such an important cause for the, in fact, they are holding back most of the money for themselves. The report that the Office of Secretary of State is releasing today is about commercial fundraising companies. Now, these are legitimate companies, many of them providing a wonderful service for many charities in the state of Washington. But there's some of them that are keeping most of the money for themselves. And we want to make sure that the citizens of our state check this out. If they don't know who these people are, check it out with going to my office through our website and through our toll-free number to find out, is this organization not only legitimate and registered, but also is this how much money actually goes for the charitable purpose. The amount of money that has been raised by charities that operate in the state of Washington is almost staggering. It's $1.5 billion. Now, that's not all raised in the state of Washington, but these are charities that operate here. However, 1/4 of the commercial fundraisers return less than 20% of the money to the charity. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to give to somebody who's going to keep 80% of the money for themselves. I want to give for the charitable purpose. On the other hand, nearly 8% returned more than 80% to the charity. We actually have one commercial fundraising company that took 122% of how much they raised. In other words, more than they actually raised for the charitable purpose. And we had another one that took 101%. Now, there are 9,750 charities that operate in the state of Washington. They provide a wonderful service to the people of our state and are extremely important, and they need your help. But I encourage people, before they contribute, that they call the Secretary of State's toll-free number, 1-800-332-GIVE, or go to our website, which is sos.wa.gov/charities. And we can provide you with that information. Are these people registered? How much money actually goes to the charity? Very important questions. Beyond that, we encourage the citizens themselves to be vigilant. It's a buyer beware kind of a situation. Ask who they are. Ask if they are a commercial fundraising company. Ask them to send you printed materials. Only send a check. Points like that AARP is very important. You know, the mission of AARP is to get this information out to you, and I encourage people to use it. Now, the enforcement side of this, for cases where there are actual fraud, is the responsibility of the Office of Attorney General. So I'm delighted to have the outstanding Attorney General of the State of Washington, Rob McKenna, with me, and I turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. It's an honor to be here with one of Washington State University's most distinguished alums, sincerely, and one of my favorite Cougars, except on Apple Cup Saturday.
Yeah, right.
So well said, sir. And you know, just as dependable as the Apple Cup rivalry every year are the arrival of two important figures in the holiday season: Santa Claus and the Grinch. Santa Claus represents the spirit of all the people of Washington State who give so generously every year to food banks, to their churches, to great charities like the Red Cross. And the Grinch, just assuredly, represented by a handful of commercial fundraisers who take more than they should, who keep 122%, 101%, 95%, even 80% of what they raise. That's why what Secretary of State and AARP are talking about here today is so terribly important. It's so important that everyone who wants to live that spirit of the holidays, to live up to that Santa Claus ideal, know who they're giving to, or else the Grinch will walk away with a lion's share of what they contribute. Now, I want to make it clear, as the Secretary of State has already pointed out, that it is not per se illegal for a commercial fundraiser to keep 80 or 90% of what they raise. Well, our law does not prohibit that. But what it does prohibit, and where our office gets involved on an enforcement basis, is where they are unfair and deceptive around that fact and other facts, where they deceive donors or potential donors about how much they'll actually pass along to the charity they're making calls for, or they are deceptive or unfair in other ways. That's where we get involved. You know, a lot of folks out there today, my household, your household, are going to be receiving very nice looking solicitations like these during this season: holiday food and toy drive, emergency food drive. We salute the veterans. And these are very well done solicitations, and they really tug at the heartstrings. And some of them you receive are going to be perfectly legitimate, but you still need to be an informed donor, just as we always encourage you to be an informed consumer. And therefore, you have to look beyond the surface appeal of these solicitations to the underlying facts. In the last year, we've resolved 5 cases against charitable solicitors. We have 4 investigations actively underway right now, which illustrates that this is an ongoing issue, an ongoing challenge for us. We resolved 5 cases this year, 4 investigations underway right now. The worst of the bunch that we resolved cases against in 2010 was a group called the Charitable Assistance Group. Never has there been a greater misnomer, as far as we're concerned, than charitable. It turns out they were assisting themselves. It wasn't about helping others, it was about self-help. The for-profit organization called Charitable Assistance Group and its owners solicited donations for legitimate organizations like JC's chapters, but also for fake charities. They kept about 90 to 95% of the money for themselves when they were raising the money for legitimate charities, and kept, of course, all of it when it was a fake charity. Under our settlement now, under this legal settlement, they will no longer be allowed to solicit for any charity in Washington State ever again. The fact is that there are tools that are available. The Secretary of State and Mr. Shadell from AARP have already mentioned that you can use to make sure that you're giving to a legitimate cause, that at least you know whether they're giving 90% to the charity or keeping 90%. So if you follow these steps, if you do just a little bit of homework and you protect your personal information, you're going to have a happy season that St. Nick would be proud of, and most importantly, the charities that you're trying to help are going to receive the lion's share of the benefit of your generosity. Thank you very much.
For more information on protecting yourself from charity fraud, visit our website at aarp.org/WA. And to suggest topics for future programs, please send us an email at aarpwa@aarp.org.